Jah not dead, him not dead, him live on and on and on and on. Yo, Jah not dead, him not dead, him live on. In the heart of man, Jah not dead, him not dead, him live on and on and on and on. Yo, Jah not dead, him not dead, him live on.
Peace, peace. This your host, Selah Shalom. And this is a Cosmon Teachings in the words of Jehovah and his angel ambassadors from the Cosmon Bible, OAHSPE. And this is the Cosmogony and Prophecy series part 5, entitled The 4 Ages of the Earth. Here I will be explaining the cosmic cycle and the true timeline of mortals on Earth. The BC, before Christ, and AD, after the death of Christ, concept is a false concept of time. First, it is false by starting the counting backward through history and then counting forward through history. That is totally backwards and off. Now here is the real issue of this matter concerning times and seasons and cycles. The solar system travels in an orbit, which the orbit is broken down into 8 sections called the 8 gardens. One garden is made up of 576,000 years. One garden is broken down into 4 ages. The 4 ages are compared to the 4 seasons. The first age is called the time of creation. The second age is the inhabitable time for the living on earth. The third age is the time of barrenness on earth. And the fourth age is the time of rest and destruction on earth. Now, one age of 144,000 years has 6 Gadol degree periods of 24,000 year period. A Gadol is equivalent to what they call a precession. Every 24,000 years, the Earth vortexian temperature declines 1 Gadol degree. The Gadol degrees start in the first age at a temperature of 105 degrees and start declining through the ages. The fourth age being the last age, the Gadol degrees would have dropped to 82 Gadol degrees. These Gadol degrees have to do with the planetary temperature decline every 24,000 years, or every precession. And proof of this is like the dinosaurs. At the time of the dinosaurs, the Earth vortexian temperature produced a greater amount of heat compared to today, which shows a proof in decline of planetary temperature. The dinosaurs wouldn't be able to exist today because the temperature would be too low for them to survive. Now, one age of 144,000 years is broken down into 2 halves of 72,000 years, called the first half and the second half. Now, a half age is further broken down into 3 periods of 24,000 years, which is the Gadol periods. To show that a Gadol is 24,000 years, in the Book of Knowledge, chapter 4, verse 17, it states, verse 17, "By Jehovah's mastery over his person created he countless worlds, of which the corporeal earth is one, and he created the living thereon, and the time was 1 Gadol, 24,000 years." So this verse shows how the living was created in a 24,000 year time period. Now a Gadol is further broken down into 2 periods of 12,000 years called an era. And again, these eras are broken down into arc cycles of 3,000 year periods. And these arc cycles are broken down to 400 year periods called times and 200 year periods called half times. And then to further break it down to the lowest common denominator, which is the basis for prophecy, is the 11 year cycles and the 33, 66, and 99 being sub-cycles. So this is just a quick breakdown of the 4 ages to all corporeal bodies, just differing in time of years. Now I will apply the 4 ages with the history of mortals to show you how these prophecies work, based off the timetables of prophecy. Now the earth was created in a period of 144,000 years, starting from a vapor or vortex to a globe of fire to becoming a world suitable to bring forth living creatures. All took place in the first age, being the time of creation. Now, when was mortals created on earth? Applying the 4 ages again, this would be the first age, the time of creation, being 144,000 years. Now one age of 144,000 years has 6 Gadol periods. In the first age, the Gadol degrees are from 105 Gadol degrees to 99 Gadol degrees. So this was the planetary temperature in the first age. So out of the 6 Gadol degrees, which one was mortals created in? To get this answer in the Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, chapter 5, verse 17 and 19, it states, verse 17, "Place the Simuan age," the Simuan age is the time of creation, "at 99 degrees, the time of quickening animal life." So here it gives the time for quickening animal life, being a Gadol degree of 99, which is the 6th Gadol degree of the first age. So the last 24,000 years of the first age, animal and mortals came forth on the earth. And verse 19 states, "To find the Simuan age, time of creation, especially of man, place his temperature at 98 for good health, and 102 at inflammation or death. 4 below normal will therefore be the period of man's inhabitation on the earth. After the Vortexian radiation reaches this period, man will cease to propagate and so become extinct as to the earth. So here it gives you the time period mortals will exist on the planet, from the Gadol degree of 99, and 4 degrees below this is 94 Gadol degrees. This makes the inhabitable time for mortals on the earth, which is the whole time period of the second age. It also states that a Gadol degree of 102 is unsuitable for mortals on the earth, and 102 Gadol degrees is the 4th Gadol in the first age, which would be too hostile for any mortal to live on the earth. So as you can see, these things are broken down specifically, applying correct planetary temperatures even for mortals' existence. So mortals would have been created in the 6th Gadol, where the planetary temperature would have been 100 to 99 Gadol degrees, suitable to bring forth the living on earth. The 6th Gadol is the last Gadol of the first age, after which the second age starts, and the second age has another 6 Gadol periods, from 99 to 94 Gadol degrees, being the inhabitable time for the living on the earth. And this is the most important time for mortals to understand, because it is here that the mortal race is at right now, the inhabitable time on earth. Now coming to the second age, the inhabitable time for mortals, this is how it is broken down. The inhabitable time for mortals on earth is 144,000 years, and a total of 48 arc cycles of 3,000 years, which in return will total to 144,000 years. So understanding the arc cycles and subcycles are a major factor for mortals in the inhabitable time on earth. It is the timekeeper. Now for every arc cycle, there is a name for it also. Now the inhabitable time for mortals on earth, being 144,000 years, is split up into 2 halves of 72,000 years, called the first half of the inhabitable time for mortals on earth and the second half of the inhabitable time for mortals on earth. And the arc cycles, being 48 in all, are split up the same way, being 24 arc cycles for the first half of the inhabitable time for mortals on earth and 24 arc cycles for the second half of the inhabitable time for mortals on earth. These arc cycles started during the creation of mortals. So the arc cycle will be read as the first arc cycle after the creation of mortals, the second arc cycle after the creation of mortals, the third arc cycle after the creation of mortals, and so on until the present time. An example of the first arc cycle is in the book of Synopsis of 16 Cycles, chapter 1, verse 5, where it states, "At the time of the creation of man, the earth was traveling in the arc of Wan." So here it gives the name of the first arc cycle after the creation of mortals, called the arc of Wan. And this is the starting point for numbering and naming the arc cycles for the inhabitable time for mortals on earth. Now, as we travel down the arc cycles to the 10th arc cycle after the creation of man, which was called the Arc of Nu, which is a total of 30,000 years after the creation of mortals on earth. It is during this 10th arc cycle that the earth experienced its first era of civilization. And to put this in terms for biblical readers, from the time of Adam to the first era of civilization was 30,000 years, as described in the book of the Synopsis of 16 Cycles, chapter 1, verse 18 through 21, where it states, verse 18, "The 10th cycle was under Miselativa, chieftainess of the arcs Lawgivers, in the Arc of Nu, and her harvest was 10,800,000,000. Those are referring to spirits of the dead born from the earth up into the higher realms. Verse 19, "And now the earth was full of people, and all the continents and islands of the earth were inhabited by man, nor was there left any wilderness wherein man did not dwell." Verse 20, "But the generations of man had fallen from 33 years down to 12 years, and man and woman were at maturity at 7 years old, and not many lived above 30 years, but they were prolific, many of the mothers bringing forth 20 sons and daughters, and from 2 to 4 at birth." Verse 21, "And man dwelt in peace, and the earth was tilled, and brought forth abundantly of everything that was good for man to eat, and to clothe himself. And there were in those days great cities of hundreds of thousands of inhabitants, thousands and thousands of such cities. And in all the 5 great divisions of the earth," meaning the 5 great continents, "man built ships and sailed over the oceans in all directions, around about the whole world. By the angels of the Lord was he taught and guided in all things. And man had books, both written and printed, and the young were taught in schools, a knowledge of the sun, moon, and stars, and of all things that are upon the earth, and in the waters thereof. This was therefore called the first period of civilization on Earth. So here it shows how the Earth reached its first era of civilization in the 10th arc cycle after the creation of mortals, which is 30,000 years after mortals were created. And from the present time, being the 25th arc cycle going back, which would be 14 arc cycles ago, would be 42,000 years ago since the first era of civilization from the present time. Now coming to another significant arc cycle, probably the most recognized but not understood, being the 17th arc cycle after the creation of mortals, called the Ark of Noah. And it was during the beginning of the 17th arc cycle, the Ark of Noah, that the flood of waters took place, what we are all familiar with in the King James Bible. But what the Bible left out was that this flood was a sinking of a continent called Pan, as stated in OAHSPE, and other historians call it Mu, or Lemuria, once located in the Pacific Ocean. OAHSPE explains how Noah was not a man, as portrayed in the Bible, but the name of the 17th arc cycle after the creation of mortals, the Ark of Noah. And as the Bible describes Noah having 3 sons, this is also a false claim. OAHSPE explains how 12,420 souls were saved from the flood, and they were commanded to build 138 ships prior to the flood coming. And these 12,420 souls were divided up into 5 fleets of ships, 4 fleets of 34 ships, and 2 fleets of ships that were separated from the 4. And the ships carried about 90 souls to each ship. And the name of the fleets of the ships were called Shem, Ham, Japheth, Gautama, and Yesta. Now, Shem, Ham, and Japheth are names most people are familiar with because it is mentioned in the Bible. But many do not know about Gautama and Yesta. Gautama being the fleet of ships that settled in Central America, becoming the Olmecs, the Mayans, the Hopis, and all the indigenous native tribes of North, South, Central America. And Yesta being the 2 fleets of ships that settled in Japan. The Bible makes no mention of these 2 fleets, Gautama and Yesta. And Japan, the island, is a surviving piece of the continent of Pan, along with other small islands surrounding the Pacific Ocean. So that's what took place when the Earth ended the 17th arc cycle after the creation of mortals, the Ark of Noah, which would be 48,000 years from the first arc cycle after the creation of mortals, the Ark of Wayne, to the 17th arc cycle after the creation of mortals, the Ark of Noah. And to put it in biblical terms for Bible readers, from the time of Adam to the flood was 48,000 years. And from the flood to the present time is 8 arc cycles, from the 17th arc cycle to the 25th arc cycle being a period of 24,000 years. And to put it in biblical terms again, from the flood of Noah to the present time is 24,000 years. And this is a general estimate because arc cycles are not all 3,000 years. Some are more, some are less. But I'm just using 3,000 years as a basis so you can get the general understanding. Now, the 18th arc cycle after the creation of mortals was the first arc cycle after the flood. The 19th arc cycle was the arc cycle of Apollo. And it was when mortals' forms changed from a primitive shape to more upright and shapely form to what it is today, as described in the Lord's 3rd book, chapter 3, verse 10, where it states, verse 10, "Now have I come to thee in Cosmon to make plain the government of heaven upon the earth, and of thy God and his angels upon the races of men. Behold, in the time of Apollo, man in his present form was brought into being on the earth. The time and season of the earth was in that day come unto that end. Even as in this day, thy Lord hath come to change man from a race of warriors to a race of peace. For now is the time and the season of the earth propitious to that end." So here this verse states that mortals in the present form came on the scene during the arc cycle of Apollo, which was the 19th arc cycle after the creation of mortals, being 57,000 years from the time of Adam in the first arc, or the Adamites, or Homo erectus, to the 19th arc, and 15,000 years from the 19th arc cycle to the 25th arc, our present time. So I'm giving you a steady track and chronology of mortals' history based off these arc cycles. Now, the 20th arc cycle after the creation of mortals was the cycle of Thor, where mortals were taught to name all things on earth, and the arts of carving and engraving images out of wood and stone. And by the naming of all things, mortals began to create a language, being a language of images and symbols, and mortals prospered in the arts during the 20th arc cycle, being 60,000 years from the first arc cycle to the 20th arc cycle. And from the 20th arc cycle to the 25th arc cycle, our present arc, is 15,000 years ago. Now, coming to the 21st arc cycle after the creation of mortals, the cycle of Asar, or Osiris, is where mortals were taught the arts of science and natural philosophy, as described in the book of Asar, son of Jehovah, chapter 13, verse 7, where it states, Asar foresaw the times and places in the future road of the earth and heaven, and that from his decrees would spring corporeal philosophies, the first of earth, whereto man should look back in after ages, saying, thence sprang the Osirian system, hence the Assyrian races. Yet he looked further on, when man should become adulterers in disbelieving of spiritual things, doing worship to the sun, moon, and stars, and in very corpor profess to find the cause and foundation of all. So here this verse speaks of the Osirian cycle, where mortals prospered in the arts of science and natural philosophy. The Africans, Persians, and Chinese were the greatest nations that prospered in these arts, being the 21st arc cycle after the creation of mortals, being 63,000 years from the first arc to the 21st arc, and from the 21st arc cycle to the 25th arc cycle, our present time is 12,000 years ago. So the time of Osiris was 12,000 years ago. Now, at the beginning of the 22nd arc cycle after the creation of mortals, being 66,000 years after the creation of mortals, was the time of Zarathustra. Zarathustra was a Persian lawgiver and delivered to the races of mortals the first holy book, which would be equivalent to the Bible today. Zarathustra was born of a virgin mother. Zarathustra was called the Lamb of God, or Ormaz, which is the equivalent of the Creator in the Parsi tongue. Zarathustra was betrayed by Judas. Zarathustra was crucified between two thieves. Zarathustra returned 3 days after death and showed himself to the people, and then ascended in a cloud, basically a ship, before the people. Now, this is the same story that is given to you in the New Testament as Jesus the Christ. And as I already exposed how Constantine created the fictional character Jesus the Christ, based off ancient Eastern historian cultures, Zarathustrianism included. So Zarathustra came during the beginning of the 22nd arc cycle after the creation of mortals, being 66,000 years from the first arc to the 22nd arc. And from the 22nd arc to the 25th arc, our present time, is 9,000 years ago. So the time of Zarathustra was 9,000 years ago. Very ancient. Now, at the beginning of the 23rd arc cycle were the four great lawgivers, Abraham of Persia, Brahma of India, Po of China, and Iwata of North Gautama, or North America, were all sent to their respective places to deliver the persecuted out of bondage and to establish communities in peace and righteousness. And it is in this arc cycle, the 23rd arc, after the creation of man, that the pyramids were built, along with the rise of the Kemetic dynasties, particularly in this arc cycle, the Old Kingdom and the Middle Kingdom. And this arc cycle is when the nation of the Hebrew Israelites originated from. So from the first arc cycle after the creation of mortals to the 23rd arc cycle after the creation of mortals would be 69,000 years. And from the 23rd arc cycle after the creation of mortals to the 25th arc cycle, our present time, would be 6,000 years ago. And it is this time period, 6,000 years ago, that most religious scholars start their historical recording. 6,000 years ago would be on the false timeline 4000 BC, which is the beginning of your biblical creation story. Many agree that Adam and Eve started at 4000 BC. So I'm showing you that we covered 22 arc cycle of history, and then the 23rd arc cycle is where most religious scholars begin their account of human history, being 6,000 years ago, or 4000 BC. Now at the beginning of the 24th arc cycle after the creation of man, were the three lawgivers, Moses of Africa, Capilia of India, and Chini of China, or Japheth. And these lawgivers were sent to their respective places and delivered the persecuted out of bondage and established communities in peace and righteousness. During this arc cycle was the Exodus, the rise and fall of the nation of Israel, the rise of the new kingdom in Kemet, the time of Yeshua of Nazareth, Confucius of China, Sakya or Buddha of India, the rise of Christianity, Buddhism, Brahmanism, and Islam, all took place in the 24th arc cycle after the creation of mortals. And the ending of the 24th arc cycle, being 72,000 years, marks the halfway mark for the inhabitable time for mortals on Earth. And from the 24th arc cycle to the 25th, our present, is only 3,000 years ago. So now, we are in the 25th arc cycle after the creation of mortals, beginning in the year 1848 present time, being the halfway point for the inhabitable time for mortals on Earth. We are in the second half of the inhabitable time for mortals on Earth, being the second half of 72,000 years before mortals become extinct to the planet. So from the creation of mortals in the first arc cycle to the 25th arc cycle, our present time is a total of 72,000 years, the time period mortals been on the earth in this present garden from his creation. And this makes up the inhabitable time for mortals on earth. After the second age comes the third age, the time of barrenness, where nothing can generate or grow on the earth, and the earth would be as a dead planet or a barrenless planet, unsuitable to support life. And then comes the fourth age, where the earth is dissipated back into its original state, which is the gas state, and then again starts over in the first age. And such are the 4 ages to the earth, along with all planetary bodies. And with that, I'd like to say peace and blessings and catch you on the next documentary called The Basis of the Moon Cycles. Shalom.
Jah not dead, him not dead, him live on and on and on and on. Yo, Jah not dead, him not dead, him live on. In the heart of man, Jah not dead, him not dead, him live on and on and on and on. Yo, Jah not dead, him not dead, him live on.